Good evening. My name is Mrs. Lafferty.
I'm Miss Robbins.
Mr. Lee. And I'm Mr. Riggs.
We are very happy to be your students' 6th grade teachers this year. If you need to get in touch with us, please feel free to send us an email. You can also follow our blog at wolfcanyononline.com/6. This is where we're going to post all of the latest news that is pertinent to the entire grade level. It gets updated every Monday. Definitely click the follow button when you go to our blog. This is our daily schedule. We start our morning at 8:45 on the dot. We start with an opening meetup community building session. At 9 o'clock, then we begin our independent reading session. This is where your students are reading a Teen Biz article or reading an AR book to take AR tests. At 9:30 to 10:50, we start our first period, which if you are in Ms. Lafferty's class or in Ms. Robbins' class, they start with English Language Arts. Or if you're in Mr. Lee's or Mr. Riggs' class, then they start with math. Period 2 then starts at 10:50, where they switch and go to the other class. We do have recess from 11:10 to 11:25, and then we continue period 2 until 12:30. Right after lunch, we start with a read aloud, and then we go into period 3, which is either social studies or science, depending right now on who your teacher is. But each class will meet with every one of the 6th grade teachers for either social studies or science throughout the year. And at the end of the day at 2:45, we have dance and PE. And again, Mr. Riggs and I do PE with all of the students, and Miss Robbins and Mr. Lee do dance with all of the students.
So expectations for 6th grade, pretty simple. The biggest thing we ask for all of our students is to try his or her best at all times. There will be many difficult things in 6th grade, and we don't expect our students to get to mastery right away, but over time, it'll happen. So all we ask for every student every day is to try their best. Come to school ready to learn with a positive attitude, and if we have any reminders, we typically just give students a pink reminder, which you might have seen after the first week of school. It was a practice one, but there are no more practice ones, but we typically don't give too many out. If there are any severe or continued reminders, we will obviously reach out and contact you as fast as possible. The fastest way for us to communicate with you as far as academics, behaviors, and any weekly reading goals, math goals, is to please check their weekly planner every Friday. So your student should be having a weekly planner that's being filled out through the week, Monday through Thursday, and then every Friday we will update the bottom section with how they're doing throughout the week as far as academics, behaviors, and goals. So by the weekend, if you can take a look at it, sign the bottom, and bring it back on Monday, and then we'll start a fresh one the following week.
So we expect the students to be reading at home nightly for 30 minutes. They should start out with their assigned AR book if they haven't gotten to the required number of pages that they're supposed to read. They should start there. But then then they can transition to an AR book that they've chosen, but they should be reading for at least a half hour every night. The next piece is the math practice. We've got MyHRW and Edmodo. And it's really important that the students do the math homework every night, because that's what Mr. Lee and I use to help us gauge how well the students understood the content, and we pull our small groups based off of how the kids do on their homework. So we're not asking you necessarily to help them out because we want to see how they're doing, but if you could help us make sure that they get it done and that they take their time and really try their best, that's what we really want. Also, they should be doing iReady for 15 minutes a day, 60 minutes a week total. The goal is to have 2 lessons completed in that 60 minutes. It should take about 30 minutes for one lesson, 30 minutes for the second lesson. Also, we've got the 2 Teen Biz articles every week. If the teacher has told them that they only need to do 1, then the teacher will let them know. Otherwise, you can expect your child to have to do 2 articles per week.
And one other thing about homework, if you're not entirely sure what your students' homework is each night, you can visit our Wolf Canyon 6th grade blog. There is a nightly homework section that you can check to find out what is the homework for tonight.
For reading, our student expectations for literature and informational texts are listed. Number 1, understand and analyze and evaluate ideas in complex texts. The second bullet is to engage in close reading. That's multiple opportunities to reread the same text and collaborative conversation about text. That's going to be very important, especially as the students rotate into their ELA rotations. During collaborative conversations, we assign specific roles so that students are learning and practicing the norms of collaboration and conversation. In addition to conversations, we do annotate passages as we are working together, and we cite textual evidence to support analysis of the setting, the plot, the point of view, the author's purpose, purpose, and inferences drawn from text. Some of the things that we will be doing with text is comparing and contrasting, finding the similarities and differences among texts, integrating information from multiple sources to gain a deeper understanding of that topic. We might be looking at plays, poetry, maybe even using multimedia to address those topics. As we work with vocabulary, we're using context clues, word parts, and morphology to determine the meaning of unknown words. I know as I was growing up, and as many of us were growing up, when we needed to find a definition for a word, we went directly to the dictionary. In 6th grade, we're going to make sure that that dictionary is the very last thing that we do, that we're looking at context clues, word parts, morphology, followed by the dictionary to determine how close we were to the definition. And of course, we're going to be writing about text, writing. How will we accomplish all of those things? Sounds overwhelming, doesn't it? Well, we've got shared reading and we've got guided reading. What's the difference between the two? Shared reading and close reading is really whole class, where we work with the entire class using exemplar text, using text to practice specific reading strategies, annotating, and of course, comprehension skills. Guided reading, on the other hand, or scaffolded reading experience, is more small group. It's flexible grouping based on similar needs. And lessons are focused and personalized for maximum results. Again, shared reading, whole group, guided reading, scaffolded reading, really honing in on the students who need the most help, targeting specific areas of need.
Continuing with reading, we also work on literature circles and book clubs. We use exemplar text, but we're also using Newbery Award contenders. We do a mock Newbery every year, and our focus with those mock Newbery contenders is more on content rather than reading level. It's more about what we do with the book as opposed to pushing for a higher reading level. You might see your students coming home with a book that has a slightly lower reading level than what you would expect them to be reading, but it's more about the message of the book, what we do with it in a small group. So again, we're using context clues, analyzing the text, and collaborative conversations. It's very important that we're having these conversations throughout all of our curricula. We also do a read aloud every afternoon right after lunch. The reason that we do this is to expose our students to a wide range of literature and informational, and also to model what it sounds like, what it looks like to be a good reader. It shows off the pacing of a good reader, the expression of a good reader, the intonation, the fluency, but also stopping and thinking, making connections, making predictions, really just giving an example to the students of what a good reader does as they read.
And so expectations for students, we really are just asking students to come prepared to class, ready to learn, and also making sure that the reading has been assigned and that the students are actually reading the text, are prepared with questions and maybe comments about the reading. I'm going to go ahead and touch a little bit on accelerated reader. Every student has a personal reading goal. It is based on their STAR reading score. Students read books within their zone proximal development range. There's a lower range and then a higher range, and we're asking students to choose more of the moderate range, which would be more into the middle. Students will be engaged or encouraged to read, again, for content rather than that reading level. A lot of the mock Newbery Award contenders that we will be looking at are really around 4.5 to 5.5. We're focusing on specific content, and then students are expected to read by the end of the year, not right now, parents, but by the end of the year, around an hour a day. Why does that matter? This is why it matters. There is a correlation between the minutes per day that a student reads and percentile rank. So if you look at this, there are 3 columns. If you look at the second column or the middle column, you'll see that a student who reads for 65 minutes a day would have read 4,358,000 words in a given year and would score somewhere around the 98th percentile. And if you scroll down a little bit, somewhere around the 50th percentile, that would be a student who would read somewhere a little over 4.5 minutes a day. And if you look at the words per year, it's substantially less than a student who reads for 65 minutes a day. We share this information with you. We understand that your child is not a number, your child is not in a ranking, but know that academic success really is supported through the number of minutes that a student reads every single day.
And just to touch on writing, we're writing short constructed responses, but then we'll also be writing longer process pieces. And the writing genres that we touch on in 6th grade are narrative and informational. But now we have something different. Now that we're in 6th grade, we write argument rather than opinion. One of the key differences is instead of stating what you think, you're now now arguing toward convincing your reader to think the way that you think.
All right, so now on to the math department. So Mr. Riggs and I, we cover sixth grade math, and parents, you might have had a taste of sixth grade math. My biggest connection to sixth grade math is what Mr. Riggs and I teach right now is what we learned in seventh grade. So before the switch to Common Core, we use the California Mathematics Framework. And as you can kind of see, some of the things that we're going to outline as far as big ideas standards for sixth grade might be things that we, back in the day, learned in seventh grade. So a big shift in Common Core was to press some of the algebra skills down to sixth grade as we shift the alignment from K-5 to now our students being at the beginning of the second band of mathematics, 6 through 8. So right now, we are the lead bearers in this middle school section, and it's primarily still focus on algebra. So as we shift into sixth grade math, think back to when we were taking pre-algebra in seventh grade, and that's where we have to start this continuum of mathematics now. So just to outline some of the key points of sixth grade math, one thing that's surprising to many parents is students should have mastered the 4 operations before they came to sixth grade. So adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing whole numbers, fractions, decimals. That's something that should have been mastered before they came to sixth grade. We will just improve on their accuracy and fluency. So for some students, that might be a thing that we have to spiral back because of everything that happened last year. Second, again, algebra. Students use letters for numbers in formulas. Again, this is sixth grade involving geometric shapes and in ratios to represent an unknown expression. Students, again, algebra will solve one-step linear equations. Again, we learned this in seventh grade. They're now expecting our sixth graders to do basically what you remember as y equals mx plus b linear functions. Other things that are big in sixth grade, applying their knowledge of stats and data analysis. Things that you might have taken in 11th and 12th grade stats class. Standard deviation, interquartile range, mean absolute deviation. Lots of things that we didn't learn until high school now are expected in sixth grade. Mean, median, mode, and range, and how data affects that. Students right now are working with ratios and proportions. But ratios and proportions are the foundation of where we're going for the entire year. Also, students compute percentages, but we apply it to real life, as in taxes, tips, and saving interest. Students should also understand and utilize integers this year. So we won't be operating with integers, but we have to build a strong foundation of integers and rational numbers before seventh grade. And lastly, again, algebra, but it's integrated mathematics. So how does algebra connect with geometry this year? So lots of big key concepts that are laying the foundation for the middle school band of 6 through 8.
So now let's talk a little bit about expectations. I know that we're coming back from being at home for a year. And so while we have that in the back of our minds as we are going through this school year and our expectations, we're still wanting to prepare the students for middle school. So our expectations are going to ramp up as we progress. Students are responsible for their math composition book. They need to make sure that they fill that out every single day. Students are responsible for making sure that they have their math textbook. They need to make sure that they complete their nightly math homework, as we talked about earlier. Students are responsible for taking notes and completing examples as Mr. Lee and I are teaching the class. Also, we want to make sure that they are behaving appropriately and communicating with respect to us, each other, and themselves. We want them to build themselves up. We want them to love math. That's the goal. A nightly practice, we went over this a little earlier, but just again, we really need them to complete their assigned practice on MyHRW or Edmodo. We need them to work for 15 minutes every night on iReady so they can have their 60 minutes by the end of the week. And we need them to attempt to complete 2 lessons on that iReady and pass both of them. And then also, really fun project, there's the math choice menu. This is a chance for students to take what they're learning in class and apply it to real world situations. They should not see it as anything but a chance to really broaden their horizons and have a good time with the math that we are doing. It's not supposed to be, oh gosh, I gotta get it done. It should be fun. So we want them to jump into it.
As far as science goes, Mr. Lee and Mrs. Lafferty teach science. Mr. Lee teaches more of the earth sciences, physical sciences, and 6th grade focuses a lot on the earth sciences. A lot of resource management, ecology, and without us teaching this in 6th grade, students really will not see this until later on in high school. And sometimes not every student will see that in high school. So this is really a big foundation for earth science. So here are some of the big ideas that students will learn in science this year. As far as earth science, we take a look at the major features of earth structure, plate tectonics, and shaping of the earth's surface. With physical science, we take a look at flow of heat, sun as an energy source, and different types of energy sources as well as natural resources. And then in life science, we study a lot of cellular structure and function, cellular processes, and body systems.
All right, in social studies, we are going over early man, early civilizations, and we're learning about from where did the ideas of government, politics, economics, where did it come from? How did humans get from where we started to now? And what is the evidence? Where's the archaeology? And then how can we take what we can learn from these ancient civilizations and how can we apply that to our lives today? We focus on Mesopotamia, Egypt, the ancient Hebrews, ancient Greeks, India, China, Rome. I know it's not on there, but we also focus on the early Americas. And we have this really cool program with Miss Robbins where she takes everything that we learn in the social studies and she applies those ideas to civics for today. How can we be good citizens in the world today? And so we want to just not look at where we were as humans, but now where are we going with our civilization and our society?
I have the privilege of presenting the extracurricular activities. And moms and dads, students who are out there, we want you to know that as your sixth grade teachers, we are going to do our very best to make sure that you do not miss out on any of these extracurricular activities that we've always had in sixth grade. At the same time, though, we have to be really cognizant and aware of what's happening in our society. So looking at this, we've got ballroom dancing. You know that we've already started. Unfortunately, we don't have pair dancing. We're working with just blind dancing at this point in time, but we are working towards our cotillion. We're hoping to be able to perform for our moms and dads during the last week of quarter 3. The Military Ambassador Club, that will be in the process starting in the second quarter. We will be recruiting for ambassadors to really be those individuals who can take on new students and make them feel part of our family, to be part of our Timberwolf pack. PE circuit training, there is a PE rotation. Half of the students learn ballroom dancing, the other half circuit training. Of course, student council gate usually starts around the second quarter. We'll send out more information when information becomes available. Safety patrol, we're hoping to have safety patrol members out on duty by next week. Glee, of course, football, soccer, safe school ambassadors, the Good News Club, music and art. Fortunately, your students are receiving music and art every other week. And of course, we've got the speech competition. We are going to do our very best to make sure that you have the best sixth grade experience.
And lastly is the $1 million question. Best thing of sixth grade is, are we going to camp? As we are having this conversation today, August 17th, I'm saying that it is a go for this year. It's been 2 years since we've actually been able to attend camp. A lot of work has been done behind the scenes to keep this a possibility for this year. But please, parents, note that things change very rapidly. Things are very fluid, so we have to be flexible. So right now, speaking with administrators and speaking with the camp themselves, we expect to be able to go to camp this year. But a lot of it is still to be determined. So please, please, please subscribe to the blog. Please be on the lookout as we send information as we find out more this year. So date is right now still to be determined. Camp Marston, the camp that we attend, they're still in their summer program. So right now, as things are changing, cabin size, how many volunteers they don't have a complete calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. So as an educational program, they're still finalizing the schools within the county that will be attending. So right now, we have proposed a date that we would like in May. Our school always attends camp in May, which is great because weather doesn't really come into play. And we also have a lot of time to get all of our gear ready, the money, everything. Hopefully it's still on by that time. Sixth grade camp is an optional field trip. Your child does not have to attend, but we as teachers would love to have the entire sixth grade class attend camp with us, but it is optional. Every year, families have their reasons of not attending camp, but just know that we would love for all students to attend camp with us this year. Camp Marston, the one that we attend, is a YMCA run camp. It's in Julian. Transportation will be provided by a school bus, and all 5 sixth grade teachers will be on site at all times with the approved YMCA camp staff as well. They have all been vetted, trained, and certified, so we will be there away from our families to watch our away family students for the entire week. Food, housing, and all activities are included, and there's a variety variety of activities that are educational, fun, and also builds our students as far as leaders. And the entire week is filled with a curriculum that is aligned to Common Core and NGSS. And these activities are again tied closely to what we're learning in science, with major themes of interrelationships, cycles, adaptation, and the big physical idea of energy. Fun activities include learning how to use a compass, exploring a pond, going canoeing, just a variety of activities. But I think overall, as we come home, you'll see a change in your child, because I think the biggest factor in the change that we see is it is a week without parents, so they're on their own, obviously with adult supervision, but they have to take responsibility for themselves. Also, another great thing is they're outdoors. So after 2 years of being cooped up, I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to disconnect, because they're not allowed technology, and to actually learn and get to understand themselves and their friends. The YMCA camp staff, they're fantastic. We've done camp at YMCA Marston for over 15 years now, and every year we just have such positive feedback from not only the adults, but the kids. They love their camp counselors. They wish they could come back for summer because of the connection and bond that the staff builds with our students. Each outdoor instructor is an adult that has a strong educational background. They usually are current or brand new college graduates who are thinking about entering the educational field. They go through extensive screening and interviews, fingerprinting, and all that stuff. And overall, they just love students and they want to be there. They don't get paid a lot, but they know that this is what their calling is. They love outdoor education and they love working with students. So we teachers don't get a week off. We have to say goodbye to our immediate family, and we go with our sixth graders, and we are there for the entire week along with the YMCA staff. But the teachers, we stay in a separate cabin, and we see the students throughout the day, mainly during fun activities and especially during mealtime. Teachers, we act as a connection back home, and you'll see us walking around with our cameras, trying to post things up for you parents who can't be there to see what your child's doing as you follow the blog. There will be a car on site in case an emergency happens and we have to come back home to Wolf Canyon, but for the most part, we stay at camp with the children. And again, transportation, we will all go via a school bus. It's about an hour and a half away. And again, everything is included in the price. Transportation, luggage, and once again, the students do not go home. We leave Monday morning and we come back that Friday afternoon. So the cost is around $300. It goes up slightly every single year, but as we try to fundraise, we try to keep it at $300. Years past, we were able to break it into payments, but this year with the calendar and maybe the flexibility of dates, we can't guarantee that we can break it apart into either $100 increments or $50 increments. So just be prepared to immediately possibly send in the money so that we can expedite the process of going to camp this year. And that is the class of 2022 for Wolf Canyon.